in the hush of evening, as your breath slows and the day's last light gathers like water at the shore, there is a story that moves with the slow, unhurried flow of a river. It begins in shade and sunlight, in the hush of mango groves and the quiet of banyan trees, with a young man named Siddhartha. Let this story take you gently by the hand, not to rush you, but to walk with you, step by step, toward a place of soft rest and steady calm. Siddhartha's world is made of small, sacred things. He grows beneath the fig trees and by the bank of a wide river, where boats rest like long, patient shells. In the cool shade and the sunlit clearings, he learns to hold his thoughts still like smooth water, to bring his breath into a soft rhythm, to let the quiet syllable Om sit at the center of attention and settle there. He walks along paths scented with mango and salwood, and he learns the old verses and the careful gestures of his father's house. Everyone around him sees how well he learns, how gently he bows, how his forehead glows with thought. They love him. Still, Siddhartha's own heart holds a restless, unquiet note. This restlessness is not loud. It's a small, steady questioning that sits like a candle at the edge of his thoughts. He wonders, is the secret he seeks found in the words of wise men, in the patterns of ritual, in the bright, clear formulas of the scriptures? He knows beautiful words that say the soul and the whole world are one. He knows the sacred breath that tries to reach that unspoken place inside. But as he listens and learns, he notices something even the wisest men do not show. The inward place he calls Atman still hides. They speak of its shape and sing its praises, and yet the shine of full knowing, of living it at each moment, stays beyond their voices. So Siddhartha leaves. It is not a harsh leaving, rather it is the soft, inevitable parting of a bird slipping from a nest. He tells his father, and the night lingers and keeps both of them awake. In the quiet hours before dawn, he meets the gaze of his father, and there is no anger any longer, only the solemn acceptance that some paths come from a place inside that must be followed. He kisses his mother, embraces his friend Govinda, and both brothers step into a new way. They go to the Samanas, ascetics who walk lightly through the world and teach how to empty the self. Siddhartha learns to make his senses still. He lets the sun and rain touch him. He eats little, sleeps little. He lets his body grow lean and spare. He practices breath and endurance until the hunger and the cold feel less like pain and more like a way to step away from the constant clamor of wanting. He learns to slip his spirit out of himself and into the shapes of other beings, to feel the life of a heron's wings, the slow rot of carrion, a tree's silence. Each exercise is a kind of going out of himself, an exploring of the many ways life can be experienced. But each time he emerges, he finds himself back in the same bright, vexing world. He discovers, softly and with a bit of wonder, that to deny the self is not the same as understanding it. Each departure from himself returns him to himself again, a gentle, unavoidable loop. And so the questions deepen. Do fasting and burning burning away of longing bring him to the center he seeks. He begins to suspect they cannot be the entire answer. In the hum of the forest and the patient footsteps of other pilgrims, there arrives news of a man named Gautama, a being said to be calm like still water, whose smile contains the lightness of someone who has gone all the way and come back. Crowds gather around him. Govinda, tender and faithful, bends toward those teachings and takes refuge with the Buddha. Siddhartha goes and sits in that grove too, not eager for new doctrines but attentive, because the man's presence is like a small, steady lamp. Gautama's calm is not a sermon as much as an atmosphere, a steadying, halcyon breath in human form. He speaks of life's pain and its end, of the path that leads away from suffering. Govinda kneels and joins. Siddhartha listens and finds nothing to contradict his deepest sense that truth cannot simply be handed down, not in a way that becomes living inside the one who hears. He takes counsel with Gautama in a gentle, truthful conversation. Siddhartha admires this wise man, not in the way of taking his words as a map, but with the reverence one feels for a clear mirror. The Buddha's tranquility shows Siddhartha something luminous. It is possible to be whole in the life one walks every day without spectacle. He will carry that memory like a warm ember, but Siddhartha's path remains his own. He cannot accept the surrender of responsibility for his own finding. He understands that the great teaching's beauty and simplicity are not what he must cling to with devotion. He chooses instead to go his way alone. He has been an earnest seeker, and now he will become his own student. The choice is quiet and sure, a disciplined, loving solitude rather than a refusal born of pride. With this new resolve, he walks away from the grove. As he walks, there is a new brightness in his seeing. The world, once suspected as mere veil, now shows itself as a place of real shapes, each a jewel of being. The sky is blue, the river's skin ripples with light, the mango's scent, and the hum of bees settle like small miracles in his chest. He sees that the very element he had scorned, the tangible, color-filled face of things, is itself a way to meet what he has sought all along. He had tried to read the book of the world by tearing pages away. Now, instead, he sits with the book and reads it like a friend. For the first time, he feels at home in the world's everyday magic. On the banks of the river, he meets a ferryman, Vasudeva, a calm man who moves like slow water and listens like deep earth. Vasudeva's hut is simple. His hands are steady. His attention is vast and spare. Siddhartha rests there, and after a while, as he watches the river, he hears it as though for the first time. The river talks in so many voices, the rush of fish, the tiny songs of insects, the distant thunder, the soft sigh of clouds on the far mountains. It is not merely a voice that speaks of separation, of movement from here to there, but one that teaches how time folds and stretches, and how every moment contains rivers of meaning within it. The river's patient manner begins to teach Siddhartha to listen, not the quick listening that waits only for its own turn to speak, but the kind of listening that gathers everything inside and lets it become a silent knowing. When Vasudeva shows how to sit and watch the water, Siddhartha notices his own heart opening, a slow, luminous wideness like a pool becoming still and mirror smooth. In these hours by the river, Siddhartha's inner life settles. The voice of Om that once startled him into waking now hums along with the water's murmur, and he feels himself drawn close to the stream of things that are the world. Time unfurls in long, easy loops. Siddhartha moves from the grove into the city, from the simplicity of the ascetic life into the richness of flourished existence. There he learns the arts of the marketplace and of love. He meets a woman named Kamala, a courtesan whose grace and intelligence are taught in the measured ways of life. She becomes his teacher of tenderness. From her, he learns the language of touch and the careful smallness of intimate delights. He learns how to choose a garment, how to speak politely in markets, how to make money, how to step into the patterned life of the world. These lessons are strange and sweet, and Siddhartha embraces them as another kind of grammar of being. Years move like the river's swell. He plays the gambler's dice and tastes the dizzy, sharp joy and sorrow of risk. He plays with such force that his heart sometimes feels like a bird beating at a closed cage. He grows wealthy, then he wastes it. He becomes used to soft nights and fine food, and he grows tired in ways he never knew as an ascetic. It is a slow unwinding, a losing of the polished clarity he once had. His once quiet inner lamp seems to dim. It is an important stage in his life. He has learned how to all the way to be a child of the world, and not merely its critic. Yet a tender, aching center remains. Even as his hair grays and his life grows complicated with pleasures and losses, the river's memory in him keeps calling. One night, touched by some hard dream, he feels that the inner bird has been stilled. He is shaken by heaviness. He sits alone in a grove and faces the small extinguishing of his life as he knows it. And in the deepest moment of his despair, the word Om rises from his lips. The breath forms the old holy sound, a single movement of inner recognition. In that sound, the river of his life wakes. He feels a clean, vast sleeping come over him, and for a while, he falls into a sleep both deep and renewing. When he wakes, he finds himself by the river once more, and an old, kind boatman sits across from him. It is Vasudeva. The ferryman's company is simple and sure. Vasudeva teaches him how to move the oar almost by feeling rather than by thought, how to step into the present so fully that the past and future lose their grip. Siddhartha learns to listen more deeply still, to hear the music of the river that carries within it the music of 1,000 lives, of births and endings and beginnings interwoven. Then a tender, fragile thing comes again into his life, the child of Kamala. The woman dies by the river, and the child, their child, remains. At first, the boy is frightened and aloof. He has lived among the luxuries, that a soft life offers and resists the quiet rhythms of the fairywood hut and the patient work of two old men. Siddhartha tries to love him the way a father loves, with kindness and yielding, and the boy mistrusts him and finally runs away. The wound of this parting is deep. Siddhartha has given himself and been refused. He has opened a tender space and felt it ignored. In the course of living, Siddhartha discovers a patient truth. Love has its own weather. Sometimes it rains and flowers. Sometimes it burns and hums with sorrow. He tries without force to keep the boy. He tries without anger to understand the boy's will to go his own way. And when the river laughs at these repeated human loops, the father who loved and the son who ran, the son who will be a father someday, Siddhartha notices a subtle turning. The river shows him how life returns and circles, how the threads knot and untangle, how each current contains all the others. There comes a moment when Siddhartha and Vasudeva sit very still and listen to the river together. Siddhartha speaks aloud of his wound, of the boy he loved and lost, of his years of greed and wasting, of how all of it felt like one story. As he speaks, Vasudeva listens as the river listens. The listening itself becomes an act of healing. The more Siddhartha shares, the less the pain isolates him, and the more his heart finds a gentle, unforced peace. The river takes his pain into its flowing body and returns it softened, as though each lament were a pebble worn smooth underwater. As the sun moves, the river's many voices resolve into a single, sweet music. There is a sense that time, that sharp dividing line between what has been and what will be, is a trick our minds play when they try to tidy up a wide, living present into boxes and names. The river does not live that way. Its entire existence is a present that contains memory and expectation, the young and the old at once. Siddhartha, listening, learns to see all that once seemed separate as part of a living wholeness. The sorrow and the laughter, the vices and the holiness, the births and the deaths, all are water, and the water's timelessness contains them. In time, Vasudeva leaves, blessed with the quiet light of one who has come to rest within the river and walked into the forest with a contented step. Siddhartha stays and listens on. Old friends come by, a man named Govinda among them, faithful Govinda, who had once walked with Siddhartha and later followed the Buddha's path. Govinda recognizes his friend's face and is drawn to him with a tender wonder. He asks Siddhartha if he has found any teaching he can bring away, some pearl of doctrine to word. Siddhartha smiles softly and offers something quieter, not a lesson that fits into phrases and rules, but a certain way of attending to the world and to oneself. He says that wisdom is not something that can be simply passed from mouth to ear. One can hand someone a scripture, a ritual, a set of instructions, but not the living, breathing flowering of wisdom itself. Wisdom grows in the presence of a life fully lived. Then a miraculous thing happens. At Siddhartha's gentle urging, Govinda bows and presses his lips softly upon the elder's brow. In that single, reverent touch, Govinda's heart opens like a bowl into the steady rain of many, many lives. He sees, for an instant so vast it feels like forever, the thousand faces of being, the newborn and the dying, the lover and the thief, the wise and the foolish, all flowing in a single stream. He understands in a way that is beyond words the seeming opposites, the wide variety of shapes life takes, are one continuous movement. The smile on Siddhartha's face seems the same smile he once saw on the Buddha's brow. Small, inscrutable, warm, with a kind of ineffable compassion. Govinda kneels in profound humility and gratitude. As your breathing settles now, let this be the last thing I leave you with, that the deepest learning is not an accumulation of clever ideas, and it is not the clenching of certainty. It is a softening, a way of listening, until the heart lets go of its rigid edges and becomes like the surface of a still pool. To become like the river is not to forget or to neglect the world, but to let every experience move through you without becoming stuck. Things will come and go, joy and sorrow, people leaving and coming near. Let them pass through as water flows. The river keeps its song no matter what it carries. Rest now and imagine for a moment the slow, patient river. Hear its voice folding over itself, the hush of leaves, the soft slap of oars, the laughter of birds, the low call of distant thunder. Let the image of Siddhartha fade into that gentle current, a man who walked through many ways of life and learned in each one what must be learned. He discovered at last that what he had sought so widely and so eagerly was never far from his reach, that the whole world, every life, every small thing was already a doorway to the same quiet center. So breathe softly, in and out like the tide. You do not need to rush to the center. You are already moving toward it with each gentle breath. Like the river, you are always both new and the very same. Allow your thoughts to ripple away. Allow your breath to be the steady oar. Good night.